Eating out in Tokyo is definitely cheaper than eating out in Singapore. But that's not the real reason why Singapore's oldest food stalls are dying. In January this year, Singapore's oldest Nasi Padang store vanished. 78 years, gone. Most people blame the landlord. They were wrong. So something else closed it. I think I know what it is. I just didn't expect that to be part of the answer. And to the contrary, this video is not about landlords at all. Singaporeans spent $33 billion on overseas travel last year. That's bigger than Singapore's entire luxury goods market. Singapore's economy grew 5.7% last quarter, and real wages just had their best year since before the pandemic. You already know why Singaporeans travel more. Dining out in Singapore costs 30 to 40% more than most other Asian cities. That's not new. Singaporeans are now running that same cost calculation on everyday spending and not just holidays. Yet those headline numbers hide a harder truth. Retrenchments are rising. So is spending overseas. Both at the same time. Retrenchments just hit a 3-year high, 3,830 in one quarter. Yet that same year, wages had their best year since before the pandemic. But 45% of Singaporeans think the world is headed for a recession. Only 18% think Singapore will grow. That gap is people reacting to the headline, not their bank balance. And it shows. Credit card debt just hit a 10-year high, $9 billion unpaid. Singaporeans aren't broke. They're spending like they think they will be. So if Singaporeans are this anxious, why is overseas travel not the first thing that they are cutting? Because it's the luxury goods that are getting cut. Under 40s are skipping the watch, skipping the bag, and booking the flight instead. Singapore's luxury market may be growing, near $11 billion, the growth fueled by older Singaporeans, but younger Singaporeans are choosing to travel over making luxury fashion purchases. Overseas travel wins, while dining out in Singapore loses, every single time. Here's what that looks like on the ground. Over 2,000 F&B businesses shut down in Singapore over the past 10 months. One was Warung Nasi Pariaman, Singapore's oldest Nasi Padang store. Same family, 3 generations since 1948. Closed in January this year. Singaporeans pointed the finger at landlords and rent. But the government itself came out and said this wasn't why they closed, and rents across that whole heritage district had only risen about 2% a year. So if it's not rent, what is it? Or was it something more? But how did Singaporeans get here? Singapore's habit of picking the best deals has a hidden cost. In February 2026, the government released numbers that proved rent isn't actually the villain most assumed. F&B businesses in Singapore actually grew 42% over the last decade. New ones opened faster than old ones closed. But the government doesn't track how many of these closures are old, standalone heritage names as opposed to chains. So no one officially knows if old Singapore is disappearing faster than new Singapore replaces it. What is known, however, which names are already gone. Gaso, an 86-year-old stall that started as a pushcart selling fish soup in the 1930s. It closed in September 2025. Rent went up 30%. They needed 300 more bowls a month to cover it, and that appetite had moved overseas. There's a theory that explains this, but it's never been checked. Maybe this is just what a healthy competitive market looks like. Old businesses that can't keep up get replaced by those that can. Maybe this happens in every city with a competitive F&B scene. If Gaso couldn't make the economics work after 86 years, maybe that's the market working exactly as it should. Except this isn't actually a mystery. These 2,000 businesses aren't competing with better restaurants. They are competing with $33 billion Singaporeans are choosing to spend somewhere else. That's businesses losing to flights nobody's rebooking. Maybe this is how Singaporeans have always done things, choosing something useful over something they love. And it's not confined to hawker centers. This isn't just happening to Singapore's retail and dining scene. This cold, hard logic is also being applied on the very lands that Singapore is standing on. In July this year, Singapore's Housing and Development Board announced it's clearing 15 of the 23 hectares of Maju Forest in Clementi for public housing. A petition to save it has passed 23,000 signatures. HDB's own chief town planner told reporters that the plan is not final. But trade-offs have to be made. In short, the need for housing outweighed everything else. Same math, different asset. We're talking about a forest instead of a Singaporean food stall. I've done this too. I picked a flight over a Singaporean restaurant I've walked past 100 times. So let me ask you the same question I had to ask myself. How many times this year did you do the exact same thing? I made that decision because it felt like the better deal. The same way Singapore's authorities did with a forest 3 weeks ago. Weighed it, decided it was worth it, and moved on. But how did Singaporeans get here? It started with one generation's survival and became policy for everyone after. Surviving the Japanese occupation. Surviving by building the school system around English, ahead of Singaporeans' own mother tongue. The message was always the same. Decisions keep a country alive, feelings don't. That's still the calculation running today in Singapore. At a local food stall, in Parliament, in a forest being cleared in phases. If you've caught yourself making this same trade-off, tell me in the comments. I want to know if you've noticed.